Hello, so this is a training video on how to get into understanding how peel compositions work. It's quite a specific one. Hopefully it'll be of interest. I'd advise you to have a look at some of the longer training videos on how methods work, on coursing order, on calling things if this is an unfamiliar topic. We're going to look at one particular peel composition. This is Nathan Pitstow's composition, originally for superlative major, but often rung to Yorkshire surprise major. And it's what's called a three-part composition. It's 5,088 changes long. And we're just going to talk about how it works, what goes into it and that sort of thing. So for a surprise major to ring a peel, you need about 23 courses, 23 whole courses of surprise major gives you 5,152 changes. This composition has 21 whole courses, which are 224 changes long, plus 3 shorter courses, 4 lead courses, which is 128 leads each. So that makes up the 5,088 changes. Now, the way all of this information that you're seeing here on the slide, what does it all mean? So the underlined bit with B, W and H, those are what we call the calling positions. So B means before, W means wrong, and H means home. And from the tenor, before means the tenor runs out, so it's the call is called as the tenor is dodging with the treble 1-2 up before it would normally make seconds and become seconds place bell, but instead, because the bob runs out, jumps forward 3 leads to become thirds place bell, and that's how you shorten the course. Wrong means tenors dodging 7-8 up to become 7th place bell. That's 4 leads into the course, and home is 7-8 down, tenor dodging 7-8 down, and that's at the end of the course, 7 leads into the course. Now, although these calling positions are from the tenor, that's not to say at all that it's necessary to ring the tenor to call this composition. It's entirely possible to call it from another bell. There are a couple of particularly easier bells to call it from, but the calls are always relative to the position of the tenor. So if you're calling from a different bell, you need to keep an eye on where the tenor is as a way of keeping track of where to call the calls. Okay, other bits of information you've got here. At the bottom it says 3-part. That means that the calling that's shown there, which is 7 whole courses and 1 short course, you repeat that 3 times to get the peel length, the composition. And the numbers to the side are what are called course ends, and they are the course end after, so the change that's rung when the tenors 7 and 8 are dodging back together at the back at the end of 7 leads. When the tenors are back together at the back and the treble is leading, so you leave those bells out, you kind of just assume their place, so 1 is at the front, 7 and 8 are at the back. But the course end shows where the other bells are when that happens, and for the first couple of lines, it shows that course end after all of the calls on that line, so that's actually 3 courses in that you get 1, 5, 2, 4, 3, 6, 7, 8. Now, how does this all actually work, this 3-part thing and that sort of stuff? So we've got at the start of the composition, we start in rounds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have a call it wrong, we have 3 homes, so 3 times when the tenor's dodging with the 7 back at the back, 7, 8 down, and then another wrong and another 3 homes, and then a before and 2 homes. After you've had all of those calls, you get this change: 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 4, 7, 8. And if we have a look at that and compare it to rounds, we can see that 2 and 3 are back where they started. They're in seconds place and thirds place. So they've, through the course of this composition, this one part of the three-part composition, they've got back to where they started. So 1, 2, 3. But 4, 5, and 6 have rotated around. They've moved around to different places. So 5 is in 4th place at the end of the part, the 6 is in 5th place, and the 4 is in 6th place. So they've sort of done a rotation. 4's gone up, 5 and 6 are slightly lower in the change at the part end. And because they've rotated, three bells have rotated round into 3 different places. If we then repeat that composition again, the second part of the composition, we get 1, 2, 3. 2 and 3 are back where they started. 6, 4, 5, 7, 8. And then we repeat it again, and we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So a 3-part composition, you have bells that are sticking where they were originally at the beginning of the composition, and you have 3 bells that have rotated round, that have moved into different places, and you keep that going, and you get eventually back to rounds, which is the aim of the peal composition. So because of that, we've got 2 and 3, which are doing a kind of regular work in each part. So what the 2 does at the calls in the second part and in the third part is the same as in the first part, and it's the same for the 3. It's the same for 7 and 8 as well. 7 and 8 aren't affected by any of the calls except for this before, where 7 runs in and the tenor, the 8, runs out. But 2 and 3 have this kind of regular work across the course of the composition. And if we look at it in a slightly different format in a moment, we'll see how that works. Before we do that, let's have a quick look at calling positions. So wrong, 7, 8 up for the tenor is here. We can see that that's 4 leads into the course. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We've just got past the halfway point of the course. In Yorkshire Major, the halfway point, we get 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 reverse rounds in the plain course. And yeah, so the wrong is here, 4 leads into the course. The home is here at the end, so 7, 8 down, so 7 leads through the course. And the before is here, so where the tenor would make seconds, and it takes you through these 3 leads to here. You sort of skip this middle bit of the course, and go from here, where tenors would make seconds, and the 7 would dodge 3, 4 down. Instead, because the 7 runs in and the tenor runs out, you get to this bit here, 1, 7, 8, and then the other little bells in some order. The other calling position to keep the tenors together is a middle, but as there isn't a middle in this peal composition, we're just going to ignore that for now. So that's what those calling positions actually are. Now, another way of writing out this composition is to write it out course by course. So the version that I showed you originally is the kind of shorthand way of writing it out. So wrong and 3, before and 2 homes. But a slightly longer way of writing it out is course by course. So wrong and home, and then the next one is whole course, and there's a home, a whole course, and a home. Wrong and home, a whole course to a home, a whole course to a home. Before, and this is the short course, the 4-lead long course, and a home, 2 leads later, 2 leads after the before, then a whole course and a home. So of the 8 courses, you've got 5 where it's just a whole course and then a home at the end, and you've got 3 courses where there's 2 calls in the course. It's either wrong and home, so wrong at lead 4 of the course, then 3 leads later a home, or before at lead 2 of the course, and then 2 leads later a home. That's short course. And what I've written out here is the course ends for each of the courses in each of the parts. So in part 1, these are the changes that you get at the end of each of the courses. In part 2, these are the changes you get. And in part 3, these are the changes you get, obviously with the treble and with 7 and 8, the front and at the back of that change. Now, if we look at these in a bit more detail, we can start to see a few things, a few patterns, a few useful bits of information to help kind of work through the composition. One of the things just worth noting and mentioning at this stage is if we think about like plain bob doubles. In plain bob doubles, if you're calling a touch where you're affected, we'd think about calling out fourths and in. So run out, make fourths, run in, or fourths in or and out, or and so on. So that sort of cycle of what happens at calls in bob doubles where we're affected, so out fourths in or fourths in out or in out fourths, also happens in any method where you have these sorts of calls, so fourths place calls, second place lead end, where you've got bells doing a block of three. So at this block of three homes, just taking, for example, the 5 here, at this first home, the 5's run out, it's gone to thirds place. At the second home, it makes fourths, so out, fourths, and at this third home, it runs in. And that pattern, just as it is for bob doubles, is true for Yorkshire Major, where you have a block of 3. So that's quite a useful thing just to kind of keep in mind with the next bit that we look at. So there are certain bells that are doing regular bits of work, as we've said. 2 and 3 keep coming back to seconds and thirds place at the end of each part. And they also do some quite regular stuff through each part. So if we look at this first, second or third parts, the first block of 3, 3 homes here, so here, here and here, the third is always in 5th place, whether it's part 1, part 2, part 3. Then, in the second block of 3 homes, the second is always in 5th place in parts 1, 2, and 3. Okay. And then the 2 homes to the course end, to the part end rather, they're affected by the calls. They're both affected by the calls. So 3 runs in and runs out at those 2 homes in both parts. 2 makes fourths and runs in each of the parts at those 2 homes at the end. The other thing that's happening is that we've got a regular bell in 6th place. So the wrong and 3 homes in the first part. We've always got the 6 in 6th place. Then the before changes which bell's in 6th place, and it becomes the 4 that's in 6th place at the course end, at the end of each course. And then in part 2 we have another before, which puts the 5 as the bell that's in 6th place, and then at the end of each course, and then finally the before in the third part, in the penultimate course, the third part puts the 6 back in 6th place and the 5 into 5th place. So what we've got then is a quite regular composition. So 3 is always in 5ths at this first block of 3 homes. 2 is always in 5ths in this second block of 3 homes. And they're always coming back to seconds and thirds place at the part end. And that's one kind of useful thing just to keep in mind. So looking out for 6, 4, 5 in 6th place, for the 3, for the 2, with those bells. That's one way of kind of keeping track of what's happening. And then at these blocks of 3, we've got the 2 in the first block of 3 homes doing some quite regular work, so fourths in and out, same in parts 2 and 3. And the 3 is doing out fourths and in at the second lot of homes, 3 homes in parts 1, 2, and 3 as well. Okay. Now the other way of thinking about how this composition works is through coursing orders. Conductors generally try to keep keep track of what the coursing order is. That's not necessary for like a first peerless conductor or anything like that, but it's a good habit to start to get into, and it's certainly a good way of seeing what's going on. So in the plain course, the coursing order is 5, 3, 2, 4, 6, 7, 5, 3, 2, 4, 6, 8, but we kind of leave 7 and 8 out because they're not affected by the calls, or they're they're staying kind of coursing. So we just think about 5, 3, 2, 4, 6. We can sort of see that if we look at this section at the end of the first lead, so 3 on the back, then with the 2, 2 with the 4, 4 with the 6, 6 with the 8, 8 with the 7. So it's, and also here on the front, like 3 and 2, 2 and 4, 4 and 6. So it's quite an apparent thing in Yorkshire, what the, how the coursing order is working. And it's quite a useful way of keeping track of what's happening with the composition as well. So coursing orders are different to the course ends. They don't describe the change as such. They describe the way in which the bells are interacting with each other. So who is hunting down before which bells, so that which bells are each other's course and after bells. And we can see here in this first part, just something that's worth spotting is that I've underlined which bells are affected in the coursing order, and which bells, and the bells that aren't are not underlined. That the 6 here that we've already said is in 6th place at all of the course ends in the first part until we have that before. The 6 is totally unaffected by the first 8 calls, so these wrongs and homes. And the 6 here is the tenor's course bell, so it's coursing down before the tenor. That means that when the tenor's dodging 7, 8 up at wrong, the 6 is on the back with the tenor. We can sort of see that here if we just look at the plain course at the lead with the wrong, we can see 6 and 8 together on the back. And when the tenor's at home, dodging 7, 8 down, the 6 is dodging 5, 6 down. It's doing a parallel dodge just below the tenor. Now that changes with this before towards the end of the part, which the 6 makes. The 6 makes the bob there when the 7 and 8 run in and out. And that puts the 6 to the front of the coursing order. It's now actually the 7th's after bell. And because the 4 is here towards the end of the coursing order, the 4 then becomes the bell that's in here at the end of the coursing order, the tenor's course bell. And it's unaffected by all of these calls at wrong and home. And then the next before, the 4 makes it, and the 5 becomes the bell that's in 6th place and is stuck there through these wrongs and homes. And in the last part, the 5 makes the bob at that before, and you get into this 5, 6 roll up coursing order. So 5, 2, 4, 3, 6, which is similar. So 5 and 6 are back in their same places that they were in the plain course coursing order. And then a couple of homes brings it back into that 5, 3, 2, 4, 6 coursing order. It comes round there. So if we just look at this, some of these coursing orders, we can kind of see what's happening here. So this first wrong, 5 makes the bob, 2 runs in, 3 runs out, puts the 3 to the front of the coursing order, the after bell of the 7th, and the 3 is in 5th place at all of these homes. It's these middle bells of the coursing order that are affected by these calls. Then this next wrong, 2 and 3 are both affected. Again, 2 runs out, 5 runs in, 3 makes the bob, 4 and 6 are unaffected, just like they were here. Those, incidentally, are the 2 bells that are going to be in 5, 6 at the part end. So 6 is here in 5th place at the part end, 4 is in 6th place at the part end. Then we've got the 2 is unaffected by these calls. We've got 3, 4 and 5 that are moving around in this first part at these 3 homes, and so on. And it's just worth spending some time like studying these coursing orders, having a think about what's going on with these. You can have a look at the video about coursing orders and how they work and what they are, if that's helpful. You don't need to keep these in your head when you're calling for the first time, but it's a useful way of understanding what's going on with the composition as well. So I think this is a really useful thing to study, to think about. Helpful hints, key hints to take from this are that the first block of 3 homes in the part, the 3 is always in 5th place and will be coursing with the 7. So notice that with the 7 on the back, together with the 7 on the back. that the 2 is in 5th place at all of the calls at home in the next block of 3 homes. So the 2 is coursing with the 7's after bell. That you've got this regular pattern of the 6 being in 6th place, then the 4 being in 6th place, then the 5 being in 6th place. So they're the course bell of the tenor, and that only changes when you have this before on this short course here towards the end of the part, and that 2 and 3 come back to their home positions at the end of each part, would be the main things to kind of get about this composition. Useful things to do with it are writing it out. So wrong, 3 homes, wrong, 3 homes, before 2 homes, writing it out in this format so we can see where we've got whole courses, where it's just 7 leads up to a home, and where we've got courses with other calls in there instead. Other things worth doing are looking at like exactly where to call the calls. So when do you say bob? And it's going to be when the treble is striking in 2nd place at backstroke just before it leads. So you'll hear the treble coming down, you hear it in the front at handstroke, then it dodges back at backstroke. But try to relate that to the work that you're doing with your particular bell, so that you can think about, okay, so I'm hunting up here as the treble's doing a dodge just before I come into 7th place for the wrong, or I'm lying behind with the tenor, 7's coming up to the back just as we're coming up to the home, or dodging with the treble on the front for the before. And those would be the main things I would say about this composition. Good luck with learning it.